Good day, we are Group 6 and our topic is conditions of employment. We are going to discuss hours of work, flexible work arrangement, RA number 1165, Bankhouse Rule, Personal Comfort Doctrine, overtime rest periods, non-compensable hours like meal, idle, travel time, and lastly is the service charge, RA number 11360.
Hours worked, the time during which an employee is required to be on duty at the employer's premises or at a prescribed workplace. Overtime is any work performed beyond 8 hours a day. Premium pay. The Labor Code mandates that overtime pay be paid at a rate of 125%. Meal period. The Labor Code requires that employees be given not less than 60 minutes for their regular meal break. A compressed workweek arrangement redistributes the standard weekly working hours into fewer days. For examples, instead of working 5 days at 8 hours per day, employers might work 4 days at 10 hours per day. Split work shift, or commonly called split shift, refers to a work shift that is divided into 2 shifts. For example, 4 hours for first shift, 4 hours for second shift. Night shift refers to any work from 10 o'clock in the evening to 6 o'clock in the morning of the following day. Night shift differential. Article 86 states, every employee shall be paid a night shift differential of not less than 10% of his regular wage for each hours of work performed between 10 o'clock in the evening to 6 o'clock in the morning. Rest day. Employees are entitled to at least one rest day after every 6 consecutive work days. Special non-working days, a declared holiday where employees are not required to work. If they do, they receive additional pay but not as high as regular holidays. Examples of non-working holidays are Ninoy Aquino Day, Chinese New Year, Black Saturday, and Christmas Eve. Normal hours of work. The standard of hours employees are expected to work, usually 8 hours a day, not including meal breaks. 8-hour workday. The general rule is that the normal hours of work for an employee shall not exceed 8 hours a day. Work week and daily limits. There is no statutory limits on the number of work days per week, but the typical arrangements is 6 days of work with 1 rest day. Principal activities. Time is spent performing principal work the employee is employed to do is compensable.
Next is waiting time. If the employee is required or permitted to remain on standby at or near the workplace, waiting time is considered compensable hours worked. Next is rest periods or short duration. Short rest periods, example, coffee breaks of 5 to 20 minutes, if granted, are generally counted as hours worked. Next is travel time. Travel during the employee's regular working hours and travel required to perform work-related duties like traveling from job site to job site during the workday is hours work. However, normal home-to-work travel is not compensable. Lectures, meetings, trainings, attendance at lectures, meetings, and trainings program required by the employer or undertaken for the benefit of the employer generally counts as hours worked, provided the employee does not voluntarily attend outside normal working hours and the activity is directly related to their job. Next is 1 hour meal break. Employees are entitled to a regular meal period are not less than 1 hour per day, which is not compensable time if they are completely relieved of duty. Premium pay rates. The Labor Code mandates that overtime pay be paid at a rate of at least 125% of the employee's regular wage rate for work performed in excess of 8 hours on a regular work day. Next is overtime on rest days and holidays. Work performed on employees' rest day or on a special non-working day must be compensated at an additional rate at least 130% of the daily rate for the first 8 hours and at least 169% for hours beyond 8. On a regular holiday, the pay rate is higher, at least 200% for the first 8 hours and 260% for excess hours. Next is flexible arrangements. Any division or compressed work week arrangement that affects overtime computation must be agreed upon in writing, ensuring that employees do not lose any of their statutory benefits. Next is work defined. Any work performed between 10 o'clock p.m. and 6 o'clock a.m. is considered night work. Next is night premium pay. Employees must be paid a night shift differential of at least 10% of their regular wage for each hour of work performed during these hours, in addition to any overtime or premium that may apply. Next is flexible work arrangement, Republic Act number 11165. They are typically introduced to enhance work-life balance, improve business resiliency, and meet modern workforce demands. In the Philippines, various issues have laid the groundwork for such arrangements, culminating in the enactment of Republic Act number 11165, known as the Telecommuting Act. Next slide is Republic Act number 1165, the Telecommuting Act. The law's primary objectives are to provide employees and employers an option for more flexible workforce or workplace agreements. So we have here the legal framework and objectives, coverage and scope, key features and provisions, implementation and pilot program, the IRR and the role of DOLE. First is yung legal framework and objectives. Napatupad ito noong December 20, 2018. The Telecommuting Act institutionalized telecommuting bilang alternative work arrangement in the private sector. Telecommuting, ito yung act na work arrangement where yung employee ay pwedeng gumamit ng telecommunication and or computer technologies para ma-perform yung task and responsibility outside the employer's premises. So here are law's primary objectives: to provide employees and employers an option for more flexible workplace arrangement. Ito yung may mga options para maging mas flexible yung work. Next is to ensure that workers' rights and benefits are protected despite the physical distance from the employer's premises. Ito naman yung sinisigurado pa rin yung karapatan at benefits ng employer kahit wala sila sa mismong office. And next is yung to promote work-life balance, productivity, and competitiveness in both the domestic and global market. Ito naman yung tumutulong para mas maging balance yung buhay ng isang empleyado para mas maging productive sila. Next is yung coverage and scope. Coverage and scope, the act covers employees in the private sector. And pag public sector agencies, pwede silang mag-craft ng own guidelines nila patterned after the law. Telecommuting is voluntary and must result from a mutual agreement between the employer and employee. Hindi pwedeng ipilit kapag isa lang sa kanila ang pumayag. So, ano nga ba yung mga key features and provisions nito? Number 1 is voluntary nature of telecommuting. Telecommuting arrangement must be based on voluntary agreements. No employer can force an employee to telecommute, and no employee can demand it as a unilateral right absent a company policy or mutual agreement. Next is
No diminution of rights and benefits. A pivotal principle in Republic Act No. 11165 ay yung employees on a telecommuting arrangement ay hindi dapat makatanggap ng less than the minimum labor standard set by the law. All mandatory labor standard including minimum wage, holiday pay, overtime pay, rest days, leave benefits, and social security contributions remain applicable. Any form of discrimination or reduction in statutory benefits solely because an employee works remotely. Third one is yung equal treatment and parity of rights. Telecommuting employees must be treated the same kahit nasa bahay o kaya nasa office. This principle ensures that telecommuting does not become a second-class working condition. Employers dapat mag-provide ng same or proportional equivalent workload, opportunities for career advancement, training, professional development, and access to collective rights. Performance evaluation and condition for promotion, disciplinary action, or termination should be based on the same criteria applied to on-site employees. Number 4 naman is yung access to training and career development. The employer dapat na i-ensure that telecommuting employees have the same access to training, career development opportunities similar to those who work at the employer's premises. Remote employees dapat hindi sila nawawalan ng pagkakataon sa learning and advancement program that could impact their professional growth. And number 5, data protection and confidentiality. Given that telecommuting involve ang electronic transmissions of data, the law implicit recognizes the importance of data privacy. Dapat siguraduhin ng kumpanya na ligtas at hindi nalalantad ang mga mahalagang impormasyon ng kumpanya at ng empleyado. Compliance with the Data Privacy Act, Republic Act No. 10173, and related regulations are crucial. And lastly, number 6, applicable technology and tools. Employers are encouraged, if practicable and agreed upon, na makapag-provide ng necessary equipment at technology. Example nito ay yung laptops, secure internet connections, licensed software na nag-aalaw sa telecommuting employees to effectively and securely perform their duties kahit na yung law ay hindi ito mandated. Yung specific allocation of cost for such tools, dapat may fairness and mutual consent govern the arrangement. So let's move on sa implementation and pilot program. The DOLE is mandated to develop at ma-maintain ang telecommuting pilot program na nag-evaluates ng effectiveness of telecommuting arrangement para ma-identify yung best practices. The result will guide the issuance of further regulations or modifications to existing rules. This pilot approach ensures evidence-based policymaking, allowing the law na mag-evolve based sa kung anong nangyayari sa real-world outcomes. Next, the IRR and the role of DOLE pursuant to Republic Act No. 11165. The DOLE issued Department Order No. 202 Series of 2019 Implementing Rules and Regulations or IRR. The IRR reiterates the fundamental principles of the Act and provides detailed guidelines on how telecommuting agreements should be implemented. The key points under the IRR include written telecommuting policies or agreements na malinaw na tinutukoy doon yung terms and conditions including work hours, performance standards, and equipment provisions. Next naman is yung mechanism for dispute resolution, ensuring that kung anumang mga disagreements arising from telecommuting arrangements, dapat ay ma-address through existing labor dispute mechanisms. Compliance monitoring by DOLE, requiring employers to keep records and submit periodic reports if directed. So let's move on sa other flexible work arrangement and their relationship to Republic Act No. 11165, while Republic Act No. 11165 focuses on telecommuting. It exists within a broader ecosystem of flexible work arrangement recognized by the DOLE. This includes compressed work week. Employees ay pwedeng mag-work longer hours sa isang araw, pero fewer days in a week, without reducing their total weekly working hours. For example, employees might work for 10 hours days instead of 5 hours days. Next is flexi time. Employees ay meron silang freedom para i-determine yung start and end times within a specific core period as long as makumpleto nila yung required number of hours per day or week. Next is job sharing. 2 or more employees na nag-share one full-time position and nag-split ng hours at responsibilities between them. Lastly, reduced work days or rotation of workers. Ito naman yung pag may crisis sa economic o kaya mababa yung demand sa isang trabaho, pwedeng magkasundo yung employers at employees sa pag-reduce ng work days or rotating employees on certain shifts to avoid retrenchments. These agreements, while not codified under a single legislative act like telecommuting, must still comply with labor standards. They are covered by advisories and regulations that underscore the principles of voluntariness, no diminution of benefits, and the preservation of employment. The introduction of Republic Act No. 11165 as a specialized set of rules for telecommunicating. Practical considerations for employers and employees in designing and implementing telecommuting or other flexible work arrangement. Clear documentation. Employees should draft clear policies or arrangement na maging clear kung sino yung may eligibility sa work schedules, output expectations, privacy and data security measures, compensation, and methods of resolving potential disputes. Pag mutual benefit and good faith, both employer and employee should approach flexible work arrangement as beneficial strategies to enhance productivity, job satisfaction, and operational resilience. Ito yung makakatulong para mas maging productive ang mga empleyado at para mas eager sila na magstay sa company. Sa legal compliance and consistency, employers must remain vigilant in complying with labor standards, ensuring no arrangement violates minimum wage laws, overtime regulations, leaves entitlements, or non-discrimination principles, na dapat sinisigurado ng employer na sumusunod pa rin sa batas, hindi dapat labagin yung minimum wage, overtime pay, mga leave, tulad ng sick leave o vacation leave, at yung karapatan nila laban sa diskriminasyon. Periodic reviews and adjustment. As yung technology nag-evolve, yung business needs din ng change. Employers should periodically review this arrangement, making adjustment para madaling maka-adapt at ma-reflect sa current realities, best practices, and feedback from employees. And lastly, the passage of Republic Act No. 11165 Telecommuting Act marks a pivotal step in Philippine labor law. Nag-provide ng clear understanding para magkaroon ng maayos na guide at fair sa pagtatrabaho, work from home man o kaya sa flexible work setup. The Telecommuting Act strengthens the Philippines' responsiveness to a modern, dynamic, and globalized workforce. Its principle of voluntariness, equal treatment, non-diminution of benefits, and fair labor standards set a benchmark for implementing flexible work arrangements that respect both the employer's operational needs and the employee's rights and welfare. As technology and workplace cultures continue to evolve, Republic Act No. 11165 and related issues stands as key pillars supporting a fair, progressive, and adaptive employment landscape. Bunkhouse Rule. The Bunkhouse Rule is not explicitly codified by that name in the Philippine Labor Code or its implementing rules. Rather, it emerged from general labor principles and court decisions. Nag-address ito ng situations kung saan yung employees live on an employer's property or mayroong provided housing as part of their employment. Under this rule, kapag ang employee ay injured habang nakatira sa employer-provided accommodation, the injury must be considered as occurring in the course of employment, even if the injury happens during off hours, dahil pinilit o inobliga ng kumpanya ang empleyado na doon tumira. Kasama na rin sa trabaho ang pananatili doon, kaya't kung may mangyaring aksidente, may pananagutan pa rin ang employer. Essentially, the rule bridges the gap between working time and non-working time spent in employer-mandated housing, recognizing that compelling an employee to live on-site and meshes their living conditions with their employment responsibilities. Legal basis and sources in Philippine law. The Labor Law Code of the Philippine Presidential Decree number 442 as amended does not contain a direct reference to the bunkhouse rule by the name. Instead, it is inferred from general principles relating to work conditions, employer obligations, and compensability of injuries. Philippine courts and the Employees Compensation Commission (ECC) have in various cases applied the reasoning and analogs to the bunkhouse rule. They consider whether an injury or incident occurred in the course of employment, nangyari habang nagtatrabaho, and arose out of employment. May kinalaman sa trabaho kaya yun yung sanhi ng trabaho. If the employee's presence in a bunkhouse is not merely optional but is necessitated by the employer's operational requirement or nature of the job, example is malayong lugar, plantations, offshore projects, mining areas, and nagkaroon siya ng injuries doon, pwede itong compensable. Condition of employment. A key factor is that residing in the bunkhouse is not merely a convenience but a requirement or a strong expectation for employees. If the employee's presence on-site confers direct benefit to the employer such as immediate availability for work, being on call, or ensuring timely attendance, then the bunkhouse effectively becomes a controlled environment to the workplace itself. Work-related injuries under Philippine social legislation, particularly the Employers' Compensation Program, an injury is compensable if it is shown to be work-related, arising out of and in the course of employment. When applying the bunkhouse rules, if an employee is injured while within the employer-provided quarters, the presumption that the injury relates to employment may be strengthened. For instance, an employee who sleeps and injures themselves in a company bunkhouse may be covered by employees' compensation if the housing arrangement is integral to the job. Arising in the course of employment. Kung empleyado ay nasaktan sa loob ng bunkhouse na provide ng company, lalo na kung kailangan niyang tumira doon, mas malaki yung possibility na bayaran ito bilang work-related injury. Normally, yung commuting to and from work or residing off premises is considered outside the employer's responsibility. Pero kung yung trabaho ay kailangan tumira sa site, on-site residence, mas lalong tumatagal yung oras ng trabaho. Tapos pati na yung mga oras na hindi ka nagtatrabaho dahil sa pag-commute, pwede na siyang maging part ng trabaho. Hours work versus rest periods. The bunkhouse rules ay hindi nito automatically i-convert lahat ng oras na na-spent mo sa bunkhouse into compensable working hours. Under Philippine labor law, hours of work generally cover the period kung saan employee ay required to be on duty or at prescribed workplace and hindi free na gamitin yung time effectively para lang sa own purposes. However, the employee is placed under significant control or restriction within the employer's provided quarters, such as being on perpetual on-call duty portion of that time may, in certain circumstances, be regarded as hours work, potentially entitling the employee to wages or overtime pay. Next is distinct from purely personal activities. If yung employee just is sleeping, resting, or doing personal activities within the bunkhouse during non-working hours, usually hindi siya considered part ng paid work time unless there is an element of control, on-call duty, or restriction that effectively makes the employee's rest period part of the working arrangement. That when mabibilang ito bilang paid or compensated. Employers' obligations in providing accommodations. Number 1 is healthy and safety standards. When employers provide bunkhouse, dapat sinisigurado nilang meron silang housing, na-meet nila yung certain health, safety, and welfare standard as may be prescribed by the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE and other pertinent regulations. Kapag yung tinitirahan nila ay hindi maayos at may nangyari na aksidente, pwedeng managot yung employer. Number 2 naman is liability for non-compliance. Failure to maintain safe and habitable accommodations can result in administrative penalties. Kapag hindi ligtas o hindi akmang tinirahan, maaaring pagmultahin ng employer, kasuhan o bigyan ng parusa. Mas mabigat yung pananagutan niya kung may kaugnayan yung tirahan sa trabaho, halimbawa required na tumira yun. Kapag nasaktan or na-injured yung empleyado sa loob ng bunkhouse, maaaring managot ang employer dahil connected ito sa kanilang obligasyon sa trabaho. Last is comparative and jurisprudential foundations. While the bunkhouse rule as a term originated in foreign, notably US, workers' compensation jurisprudence, ginagamit ito sa mga kaso ng workers' compensation bayad sa mga empleyadong nasaktan habang nagtatrabaho. Philippine authorities have embraced the underlying logic through case law. May analogy kung ang isang empleyado ay kailangan tumira o manatili sa isang lugar dahil sa utos o pangangailangan ng trabaho. Ang lugar na iyon ay maaaring ituring na bahagi ng trabaho o workplace. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi oras ng trabaho, pwedeng maging responsible ang employer kung ang empleyado ay nasaktan sa lugar na yon, lalo na kung ang pananatili roon ay dahil sa trabaho. Employers, they should carefully assess na dapat pinag-iisipan nila mabuti whether requiring employees to reside on-site is truly necessary. If yes, they must ensure compliance with labor standard on housing, health and safety, and understand that compensability of certain incidents may be broadened. And for employees, knowing that the bunkhouse can be treated like a work environment in certain respect empowers employees to assert na may karapatan sila sa ligtas na tirahan, at kung sakaling masaktan habang noon, pwede silang mag-claim ng benefits mula sa Employees Compensation Program, the right to safe and secure accommodations, and if injured, to seek remedies under Employees Compensation Law. Though not explicitly enumerated in statutory law, the bunkhouse rule is a recognized interpretative tool that reinforces the protective character of Philippine labor laws, ensuring that workers who are placed under the employer's continuous sphere of influence receive appropriate coverage, compensation, and protection. Here is the example. A ranch owner provides a bunkhouse on the property where co-hands are required to live as part of their job. On one night, while walking from the bunkhouse to the main ranch area to check on the horses, something unexpected even after normal hours. Nadulas at nabalian ng binti ang isang empleyado. Under the bunkhouse rule, because the employer ang nag-provide ng lodging and the employer ay nakatira doon, there mainly for work-related reasons, the injury can be considered work-related and covered by workers' compensation. Presidential Decree Number 626, Employees' Compensation and State Insurance Fund. Isang sistema kung saan ang mga empleyado na masasaktan o magkakasakit dahil sa trabaho ay maaaring makatanggap ng benepisyo. Halimbawa, by hospital, disability benefits, at iba pa. The Labor Law Code of the Philippines, Article 172, formerly 167, defines when injuries are work-related arising out of and in the course of employment. Ang batas na ito ay nagsabi kung kailan ito tuturing na work-related ang isang injury o sakit. Based dito, ang pinsala ay matuturing na may kinalaman sa trabaho kung nangyari habang nagtatrabaho ang empleyado o dahil sa mismong gawain ng kanyang trabaho. Slide 20, under the Personal Comfort Doctrine, acts that employees naturally and reasonably undertake na ma-maintain yung kanilang personal well-being while on the job and do not remove them from the course and scope of employment. Consequently, any injury or accident occurring during these acts generally remains compensable, preserving the productive mantle of labor and social legislation over the employee. Ito yung normal na ginagawa ng employees, reasonable things to stay comfortable or healthy on the job. Like pag-inom ng tubig, use the restroom, or rest briefly. Those actions are still considered part of their work. Kapag yung employee ay na-injured during those personal comfort activities, yung injury ay tinatawag na work-related. That means na yung employee ay pwede pa rin mag-claim ng benefits or compensation under the law.
Here are some examples of personal comfort. 1. Using the restroom or washing facilities, drinking water or getting quick refreshment, briefly stepping away from one's workstation to adjust clothing or to stand and stretch for a moment. Lastly is having a quick snack during a sanctioned break. Yung mga employees within the course of their employment, if may nangyaring brief acts for personal comforts, ensuring that any injuries is compensable under workers' compensation laws. Next slide is injury within the course of employment. If may accidents or injury within the course of employment, is compensable siya like a causal connection between injury and work-related risks, providing legal rights and compensation to affected employees under Employees' Compensation Program. Continuity of the employment relationship during personal comfort break. According to this doctrine, even though yung breaks are personal in nature, they are integral to the employee's performance and sa job duties nila. For example, if yung employee takes a brief pause for personal comfort, which is interpreted siya as continuing service rather than an interruption sa work. Next is Presidential Decree number 626. Ito yung provisions of the Labor Code, benefits para sa mga workers and yung dependents nila in case of work-related disabilities or deaths. Next is Article 172. It states na dapat mag-develop ng tax-exempt employees compensation program na nag-provide ng income benefits and medical-related benefits. For example, even though yung employees was not performing their specific job duties at that moment, the injury is covered under workers' compensation because getting a drink of water is considered a personal comfort necessary for sustaining work, and the break was brief and reasonable. Interaction with labor standards and social legislation, workers' compensation, and social security. Employers are mandated na mag-provide ng safe work environment and safety regulations, which is at the minimum conditions of employment that employers must meet. Occupational safety and health standards, which is the facilities for personal comfort like restrooms, safe drinking water stations, hygienic canteens, comfortable break areas, is part of the employer's compliance with OSH standards. Next is the non-diminution of benefits and work hours considerations. These principles reflects the constitutional mandate to uphold workers' rights and welfare, ensuring that employees maintain the benefits they have accrued through consistent and deliberate practice by their employers. Next slide is deviations from normal work activities. If an employee significantly departs from work, like leaving premises for purely personal errands, engaging in activities wholly unrelated to immediate comfort or necessity, or performing acts clearly prohibited by the employer, then the doctrine does not apply. In such cases, the injury or incident may be considered outside the scope of employment. Next is the reasonableness standard. It is a cornerstone of fair and compassionate working conditions, consistent with the overarching pro-labor policy of the Philippine legal system. Next is overtime rest period. May be performed beyond 8 hours a day provided that the employee is paid for the overtime work, an additional compensation equivalent to his regular wage plus at least 25% thereof. Work performed beyond 8 hours on a holiday or rest day shall be paid an additional compensation. On non-compensable hours, like for example, regular meal breaks, during this period, employees are completely relieved from duty and may use the time for their own purposes, leaving the workplace, eating outside, running errands, so long as the employer does not require them to remain on call at their stations or within restricted areas. Personal time and waiting before commencement of work, for instance, if work starts at 8 o'clock a.m. and the employee chooses to arrive at 7:30 a.m., the half-hour difference is not compensable unless the employer expressly requires early presence or imposes obligations on the employee during that waiting time. Next is off-duty waiting or on-call periods, where employees is free to use the time if the employer places employees on call, but the employees are free to go anywhere they wish and do not have to remain at or near the premises. This time may be treated as non-compensable provided the restrictions are not so severe that the employee cannot effectively use the time for personal purposes. Lastly is the voluntary attendance at non-work-related service, seminars, or trainings. If an employee attends a lecture, meetings, trainings, or seminar outside of working hours and such attendance is purely voluntary. Next is off-duty waiting or on-call periods, where employee is free to use the time if the employer places employees on call, but the employees are free to go anywhere they wish and do not have to remain at or near the premises. This time may be treated as non-compensable provided the restrictions are not so severe that the employee cannot effectively use the time for personal purposes. Next is the voluntary attendance at non-work-related seminars and trainings. If an employee attends a lecture, meeting, trainings, or seminar outside of working hours, and such attendance is purely voluntary and not related to the employee's current job, the time spent may be considered non-compensable. Lastly, under Article 9(6) Service Charges, in the event that the minimum wage is increased by law of wage order, service charges paid to the covered employees shall not be considered in determining the employee's compliance with increased minimum wage.